All right, Madam Chair, we are now live.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Vice Mayor Kilgore and Chair of the Board and Commissions Committee. And I'd like to welcome you all to the January 9th, 2024 remote meeting. All council committee members and staff are participating virtually. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city's website. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. And for those of you out there with us today, we'd like to welcome you. And for today's meeting, we have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To call in and comment live, use the same number, 855-925-2801, meeting code 9478. At that time, your phone will be muted and you will hear the meeting live. And at this point, speakers will need to push *3 to enter into the speaker queue. And at this time, I'd like to do a roll call. And as I go through and introduce all the committee members and staff who are participating virtually, you can say a quick hello. Okay, so council and staff, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good morning.
And Councilwoman Kim Rooney.
Good afternoon.
Assistant City Manager Ben Woody.
Good afternoon.
Deputy City Clerk Sarah Gross.
Hello.
Assistant City Clerk Jerry Goldberg.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, and at this time, I'd like to get a motion to approve the November minutes. Can I get a motion?
So moved. This is Kim, second.
Okay, at this time I do roll call. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. The motion passes. Next, I'll open up the public comment. Sarah, do we have anyone in the speaker queue this morning?
We have no callers in the queue today.
Okay, great. And now we'll move on to new business on the agenda. And our first item of business is to make recommendations for the Board and Commission's appointments. Okay, and at this time, we will sort of go through.
We have quite a few to get through, so we'll start with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. There is one current vacancy, and the chair recommends the appointment of Alvarez Abernathy.
This is Kim. I had a couple questions because I was so appreciative of Alvarez's application for planning and zoning and then not being eligible because of not being a resident inside the city limits. But Alvarez does a lot of work in our community that I think could bring a tremendous skill set to the table. If there was any question about whether or not we could appoint Alvarez to our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, it did look like we have an option for Zalika McDaniel, who's doing work with the Land Trust and has experience working with justice-involved families. So I'd also be open to supporting that application as well.
I'm particularly excited about both of those options, actually. But what made me lean into Alvarez is his experience working with unhoused, helping folks get back into housing. And so he would be my recommendation.
If that's a motion, I'm happy to second.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, great. So at this time, we'll take a roll call. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Rooney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. So motion passes. So Alvarez Abernathy is the appointment for Affordable Housing Committee. Thank you, Jerry.
All right, next is the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, and this is sort of some housekeeping. Robin Cape had been interviewed and appointed to serve at the pleasure of council as chair of the ABC Board in October 2022. She's still serving. Her term expired November 13th, 2023, and we did not reappoint her. So would the committee like to reappoint her at this time or open up the application process?
So as liaison to the ABC board, I can speak to not only Chairperson Cape's skills as a chair for the ABC board, but also her leadership at the state level as we're looking at modernizing the process for ABC in the state of North Carolina. And she has great rapport, not just with the staff and her fellow board members, but also with the public, which is regularly engaged in our meetings. So I'm happy to move to reappoint.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay, so super. Okay, Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Okay, Councilwoman Rooney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next up is the Board of Adjustment. We currently have 4 vacancies, 2 regular seats and 2 alternate seats. The board chair and staff liaison recommend the reappointment of Suzanne Godsey to a regular seat, and they recommend the appointment of John Michael Cledis, who had been serving as an alternate. They recommend him to a regular seat. And they recommend the appointment of Annette Wise and Jillian Ballard as alternates. We will be going through a process at the April meeting. We'll be bringing it to revise our current ordinance to align with state law. So that's why we're only looking to do 2 alternates at this point in time.
Okay. So would anyone like to make a motion or comment at this time?
I don't have any objections to what was presented to us. So I'll say a move to appoint Susan Godsey to a regular seat, John Michael Kildas to a regular seat, move him from the alternate to regular, Annette Wise as an alternate, and Julian Ballard as an alternate.
Second. Thank you, Antoinette.
Okay, great. Okay, this time I'll take the vote. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney.
Aye.
And myself, aye. The motion passes.
All right, next is our Design Review Committee. There are 3 vacancies currently, and this commission does have a requirement of so many downtown commission members, riverfront commission members, and at-large members. Currently, we did not receive any applications from downtown commission members. However, Ricardo Sejo is currently serving in an at-large position and is a member of the Downtown Commission. So the chair and staff, and Ricardo is agreeable to this, is recommending moving Ricardo from the at-large seat to a downtown commission seat, and then reappointing Brian Moffitt as a downtown commission member, Michael McDonough as at-large, and then the new one would be Stephen Lee Johnson to the at-large seat vacated by Ricardo.
Are there any questions? I'm happy to make the motion this time as recommended.
I don't have any questions. Councilwoman Mosley?
No. Second.
So move forward. Right. So at this time, we'll take a vote. Councilwoman Mosley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion passes.
Downtown Commission, we have 3 vacancies. The chair and staff liaison recommend the reappointment of Nura Edwards and the appointments of Stu Helms and Ben Gladstone. I will point out that Nura Edwards has since moved out of the city of Asheville limits. He's still in Buncombe County, and she is still interested in serving. As an alternate option, the chair and staff liaison recommend Billy Cooney.
So, couple moving parts here. Number one, I think having Nur's experience as a downtown business owner is helpful in the Downtown Commission. So I'm inclined that even though she's no longer living in the city limits, to keep her there. Stu Helm, I recently did a tour of downtown with Stu. It does tours of the different restaurants with both locals and is working in our tourism industry as well. So he has the literal map of the town memorized and gets to see day-to-day operations as well as infrastructure concerns. My curiosity is Ben has some experience around landscape architecture, but Billy Cooney has, it seems like, a broad range of land use, planning, and data analysis. So I'm leaning towards support for Nur's reappointment and then Stu Helms and Billy Cooney.
I'd be happy to second that too.
So that was a motion, Councilwoman?
Yes.
Okay.
And second, okay. It's Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion passes.
Human Relations Commission, one vacancy. The chair recommends the appointment of Andy Bobowski.
Is everyone okay with that?
I have no opposition. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion passes.
All right. Metropolitan Sewerage District. There are 3 current sitting council members who are interested in this position. Therefore, we will defer this to full council for discussion and vote this evening.
I just want to say I'm so glad that current council members are willing to serve, because I think that it's really important that we have folks that can continue the work on the MSD. So thank you to everyone who's making themselves available.
Thank you, Kim.
All right. Neighborhood Advisory Committee. We did not receive any applications for the 28801 area. Therefore, we will re-advertise. Noise Advisory Board, same thing. We did not receive any applications for the restaurant industry. Both of these 2 positions, the Neighborhood Advisory and the Noise Advisory, have been open for several months now. So we really need to encourage our networks to put forward anyone who's eligible, interested, and qualified for those 2 seats.
I did do some direct outreach, just a heads up, because I know that staff is working so hard on expanding our outreach with the Asheville Food and Beverage United, asking restaurant workers to reach out and spread a network with us. And they have a vast and growing network. So add that to your resource list and outreach.
May I get the contact from you if I reach out to you, Councilwoman? Thank
Sure.
you. I'll get that. Okay, next is Public Art and Cultural Commission. There are 2 vacancies. The chair and staff liaison both recommend the appointments of Alexandria Monique Ravenel and Rachel Hansen.
So moved.
So moved. Okay, great.
I apologize. Who
Second.
moved?
Kim was so moved. I'll second. Okay. Okay, this time we'll take a vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, the Community Reparations Commission. The staff recommends the appointment. There are 2 vacancies, but one is an alternate member. The staff is recommending the appointment of the current alternate member, Osandu McPeters, and they are not recommending filling that alternate seat since we're so far into the process.
Okay. So moved. If anyone else, does anyone have any objections to that?
No, I'll second.
Okay. Okay. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion passes.
I do have a question, if I might, Vice Mayor Kilgore. So the way I'm reading this is, because we're not moving forward with an ongoing process around alternates, and they're having conversations about wrapping up and formalizing the recommendations, what happens if we, for any reason, were to have even more vacancies? I know there have been people in the room regularly throughout this process, and I'm just curious, it feels a little bit like we might be setting ourselves up for not enough people at the table.
Well, here's what I was thinking when I was going over this. Good news is we're the ones who get to make that decision. So if it looks like it's going that way, we can just bring this up in the meeting and go, we need to open up.
Right, and we're doing quarterly appointments?
I think we'll be back in March this time, though, right? Instead of
Yes. March 12th.
So I
We'll
guess
be
what I
recommending.
mean is that if we don't list now, then we wouldn't have people to appoint in March.
You would still have the one alternate. There's still one alternate.
Between us and the county, or just our side?
Our side.
Our side.
Yeah.
And then also keep in mind, it's not written in stone that it has to come through boards and commissions. We could just, at the dais in a regular council meeting, make an appointment too.
Right.
I know this has just been really helpful because it allows us time to go through all the applications and to make a recommendation such that, council doesn't have to, the full body doesn't have to do the hard work that we do.
Right. We did do a lot of hard work to see the Reparations Commission, and I'm appreciative of that process. I guess my curiosity is just like, if we're essentially making a recommendation to not open the applications right now, but we could open it in the future. It's just something that I'm keeping in mind as we move forward.
But we could also open and not appoint.
And also, we do have applications that are on file, that's still on file. Can we not reach back to some of those who may be actually following, even though they weren't appointed? I would, rather than open it up again for.
Yes, the Reparations Commission's project manager and our DE&I office have maintained that process and those applications, so they should have them all still available.
Okay.
And as I said, there is still currently, if with the appointment of Sandhu McPeters, there is still one city alternate.
Okay. Thank you for entertaining this curiosity.
Thank you.
Riverfront Commission. So the Riverfront Commission seats had been changed, if you recall, not too long ago. So while there is a vacancy, the way the changes were made, the chair and the staff liaison are recommending postponing our city appointment to allow for the other appointing entities, in particular Black Mountain and Explore Asheville, to make their appointments. Because if the city were to make theirs right now, it would be over the total number of members, if that makes sense. So
one of the applicants is from Black Mountain, so it looks to be moving in that direction.
And actually, I believe if that was Ann Phillips, I just received notice she's been appointed by Black Mountain. So yes, so that's the recommendation appointment until all the other seats are filled.
Okay.
So to clarify, we then don't even have an opening. There's not one to appoint anyway.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Because the overall number of members is at its maximum. Yes. All right, so Sustainability Advisory Committee is next. There are 2 vacancies. Staff and board recommend the reappointments of Tim Ormond and Steve Barron.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. The motion passes.
And final one, Urban Forestry Commission. The chair and vice chair recommend the reappointment of 3 vacancies of the reappointment of Karen McNeil and the appointments of Scott Alba and Patricia Grace.
Okay, as liaison, I do have a couple things to add for context here. One is Karen has been excellent. I strongly recommend her reappointment. There are 2 applicants with the last name Alba that both applied, and they both do not live in the city limits. I think they're in Black Mountain. They're both on the board of Asheville Greenworks, which is a partner of the city. We also have Ed Macy on the Urban Forestry Commission, who's in the Asheville Greenworks appointing seat. So we do have connection with our key partner. So my curiosity is, I know that we've had questions about prioritizing city residents on our advisory boards. In this case, I'm not sure that we have to go outside of that process because Patricia's Grace application, and we're also losing the experience of Cecil Bothwell and Sharon Summerall, who've been longtime members of the Urban Forestry Commission and bring a wealth of institutional memory around our processes. But I did speak with the chair of the Urban Forestry Commission today, and he suggested that if we needed a local resident who's bringing some professional experience that we're losing, that John Michael Henson's application includes a background in landscape architecture. So we could keep it in the city limits with Karen McNeil's reappointment, Patricia Grace, and John Michael Henson, unless we decide that we need some more outside city experience, which I'm not sure that we do at this time.
Okay, so I can't.
Is that,
If that's a motion, I will second it. I just can't reiterate.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think in this situation, I'll move to reappoint Karen McNeil and appoint Patricia Grace and John Michael Henson, with appreciation. If we need a backup of professional experience, we have them on deck.
Second.
okay. So at this time, we'll take a vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rooney,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Motion passes.
And that is all for appointments.
Okay, so at this time, we'll do the introduction of the new application form, and that will be Sarah, and Jerry will review that for us.
All right, one moment while oh, it's up. Excellent. So we are here to introduce a new application form for boards and commissions, and we'll talk a little bit about why. Just some of the key takeaways. So we are in the process of launching a new board management software. I see Jerry celebrating. This will help automate the appointment process, but will also help us enhance our regular reporting on demographics to the board. So to complement that process with the new management software, we thought it was a great time to launch a new application form in line with that. So we'd have the new information as we keep moving forward. We have been working on this application for a long time. We've worked with the Equity and Inclusion Department, Legal, and the Office of Data and Performance to draft this. And we do hope to launch both in the spring of 2024. Right now, we're entering manually all the information, every seat into the software. So it could be longer, but it's going to be this year. So today we are asking for we're going to show the new application, and we're just looking for some feedback. Background on the current application form. It's very simple form. It's a single page. I hope you all have seen it. There's been a couple, maybe a small handful of updates throughout the years, but for the most part, it has been unchanged. We've been working on this as part of our equity action plan in the clerk's office. And again, this new board software kind of provides the opportune time to implement a new application form for some enhanced tracking in the future. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Jerry, who's going to talk more specifically about the proposed new application form.
Thank you, Sarah. So we tried to incorporate formal experience along with lived experience, knowing that you don't need a college degree necessarily to have very insightful and important and experience to contribute to our community. So we've gone into detail with our demographics questions to get some background, and then also changing the types of questions that we're asking. As you can see, these are the application questions. List any special qualifications or experiences you have. What do you think will be your best contribution to the board? What would you like to achieve if appointed? Please describe your ability to listen and consider other perspectives different from your own. And are you aware of any potential conflicts? More open-ended questions as opposed to very specific and leading questions. Next slide, please, Sarah. Any questions on the questions themselves? And again, we work very, very closely with DEI and ODEP on these things. So the demographic questions, currently we only have a few. We will be asking quite a few more, including languages spoken at home, sexual orientation, pronouns, housing, caregiver or disabled status, if any accommodations might be needed to make it to alleviate any obstacles or barriers, so that we know this up front and we can look to see if we can help with those things before appointing someone and finding out that they may have challenges and obstacles in serving. Of course, the purpose of the demographic questions is so that we can ensure a cross-section of the community has the opportunity to serve. We'll also state that all of the questions are optional. So while we are requesting they answer it, they all have a prefer not to disclose and an other option, and the other option would go to an open text for them to explain or describe however they so wish. Next slide, please, Sarah. The opportunities we get with this software, with this application, and having the new software is that we will have comprehensive demographic data to establish a baseline, whereas you know right now, and in fact, Sarah will be giving a demographic report at some point. It's a point in time. Now we will have trending and historical information that we'll be able to track. Also, if council so wishes, or city manager or anybody so wishes a specific report on anything, we can run it now or will be able to once everything's up in the software very easily and quickly. So the automated tracking and enhanced reporting will help in combination with the new application form to really give us detailed information on who's at the table and who we're missing, and how can we perhaps reach out to who's missing. One of the challenges is that the application, because it is more in depth, will take longer to fill out, and it will be more time consuming for council members to review. However, even being more time consuming, we kind of beta tested it. It shouldn't take more than 20 minutes if someone sat down to actually complete it. And that's on the long end. So while yes, it's longer, it's still, for someone, if they're truly interested in serving, taking 20 minutes to give us the information shouldn't be too much of a burden. And again, they can also skip and say prefer not to disclose if so be it. So today we're just asking really for initial feedback from you. We're looking to have this go, as Sarah said, in the spring of 2024 this year. Yes.
Councilwoman Rooney?
I just got two quick things here. Number one, are you seeing any trends of adding something about, have you attended any of these board meetings? Or have you attended advisory board meetings? Like, it would help to know if people have already been in the room, and it would take a little bit off of keeping track for when there's advisory board recommendations as well.
And I would like to add to that, Kim, and because a lot of people aren't aware that actually carries a lot of weight. It may carry a lot of weight. I think that we need to put on the applications, or not on, or when we're asking for people to volunteer, we need to let them know that a good step would be to, first step is start attending the meetings of the committees they want to, align with. So therefore they'll have that in advance. So yeah, so go ahead.
Absolutely. And I think it's on the city's website as a recommendation or like a prompt, but if it's on the form, I'm thinking it does two things. One, it helps folks be like, oh wait, I could attend this meeting. And the other part is we could keep track as we're about to make this process, like, oh, these 4 people are not new to the conversation. That might give them a heads up in moving forward.
Exactly.
So it is not a question currently on. I don't see a problem with adding that. I'll confirm with Sarah and Maggie that they don't. I think it's a good question. I will say that in the introduction, so when you go to the link that will bring up the application, it does state in there that it is it highly recommended that you attend meetings, but to add that question should not be difficult. And if council will find that helpful, then I'm sure we can add that.
So Jared, is that presently on all the advertisements you put out?
It is not. It is not.
I was thinking that it needs to be on all the advertisements, so they know beforehand, to prepare. That would be something that, because a lot of people don't realize
that they're open and can and should attend to get an idea. Exactly. Yeah, we can add that. I can add that pretty easily.
I can think of one reason. I was going to say there's a balance here. I can think of one reason not to, because folks who have already been able to address the barriers to attending we might not. I guess there's got to be a balance in looking at who's already in the room, who's ready to have the conversation, but also if folks are having barriers to participation, it doesn't mean that we don't need their professional lived experience at the table. So I just want to name there may be trends in doing this and not as like an industry standard. If it's an easy question to add, we might be able to easily add it or remove it later. I'm holding the possibility that two things are true at the same time.
Okay. So you're saying that maybe that may not be a good idea to put that on, Kim, because of that reason?
I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, I think, and that's the reason I said, but I think if we're going to do it, we need to give the people a heads up that are not really familiar with the process and know, that this is something, because I'm quite sure if it's on the application, it would carry weight with a lot of people if someone has been attending and already familiar. So anyway.
And I can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mosley.
I think a way you can kind of still get to the same desired outcome is to, instead of saying attended, you can say viewed. the meetings, because that's something that folks might be able to do, even if at times they're unable to actually be there physically.
So attended on you, yeah.
Because you can view 3 meetings in a day without taking out 3 separate days to come.
Right. Well, while we have this opportunity to start fresh and collect information, I'd be open to a yes, no. That's, have you had an opportunity to review or attend these meetings?
Yeah, exactly.
So noted, and I'll just run it by DEI and ODAP to make sure that they don't have any concerns or issues with that, but I don't foresee that.
And then I can imagine there's a lot of benefits to automating this process. So you're not manually entering this information, including the outcomes of being able to, like you said, look at trends and historical information. Do we have like a quick, like off the top list of other cities that are using this software?
If you'd like to see it in work right now, Greenville, South Carolina is using it. So if you go to the City of Greenville's webpage and navigate to their boards and commissions, you'll see what it looks like in some of the public-facing information, at least.
Oh, thank you so much, Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at our next meeting, regardless of where we're at, as far as exporting into the software, we'll be able to give you at least a preview of what to expect in the future.
Because it will change how you receive your packets of information and all of that. So we're still working through that. We're excited, if you can't tell.
Well, y'all have made so many improvements already, and for that, I thank you.
That is so true. That's so true. They've been wonderful.
So any questions on anything that we've presented? All right, thank you. Then I'll pass it back up to Vice Mayor.
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is the demographic reports, and that's also Sarah and Jerry. Depending on who does it, is the annual review of the board and commission demographic reports for memberships and applications.
Yeah, so this is a good segue into this. Will maybe hopefully be the last time I'm presenting it in this format. Moving forward with the new software and the new application, we'll have a lot more information and it will probably look a lot cleaner. But this is an annual report that is compiled every December of the year. It is a snapshot, again, because we do everything manually. So I'm looking at December only and what it looks like then. It includes membership applications and trends over time. And it only includes council appointments. So many of our boards have maybe county or other jurisdictional appointments, but I'm only looking at who has been appointed by city council, which is approximately 200 members to about 30 boards. Also, this report does not include any working group or task forces. So all that just some key highlights that I want to bring up from the report. In terms of membership race, Caucasian white makes up 71% of membership, whereas 17% are African American or Black. However, this number goes down to 9% when we remove African American Heritage Commission, Human Relations Commission, and the Community Reparations Commissions from that number. So that's 17% to 9%. Additionally, 3% identify as Hispanic or Latino, and the remaining 1% has identified as Native American or indigenous. In terms of gender identity, 53% have identified as male, 43% female, around 2% identified as non-binary or non-conforming, and the remaining 2% have not responded to this question. In terms of applications that we received in 2023, we received 151 applications. This is an increase of 43 over the past year. But I should note that we should expect to see some fluctuation in the number of applications. One, because we're going to increase outreach, but two, because the number of vacancies changes every year as well. So the full report and a lot more information, including the graphs, are in that linked report. And again, hopefully moving forward, we'll have a lot more information to share. So that is it for the demographics report. Any questions or comments?
Councilwoman Maroney?
So thank you for presenting this. I did find, though we don't have it pulled up on the screen, in the attached materials for this meeting that folks can access on the Boards and Commissions Committee page, there are some visuals that go along with it. And I just wanted to say that when I see the the increase in applications between 2022 and 2023. I really appreciate the outreach efforts of the clerk's office. I know that we've been working on new ways to reach out to folks. I've been sharing in that work with you, and I'm committed to keep doing that. But thank you for expanding our reach. I'm hopeful that we can continue this trend going up.
Okay. Well, next on the agenda is unfinished business, which we have no unfinished business. And then we will move on to the informal discussion updates. Sarah?
Yeah, so just a couple quick updates. I thought it would be fun, to do a year in review of this committee's work. I'll touch on it lightly, but this committee met 8 times in 2023. You have made 98 recommendations, which includes reappointments, 10 interviews. These were all for planning and zoning. You have heard 8 updates throughout the year. 2 major process and programs implementation, one being going from monthly appointments to quarterly. And then also we have launched the new member orientation, which includes racial equity training. Just plugging that our next training is January 30th. So yes, we're holding those. And then lastly, this committee heard some from 4 different boards to make amendments to their establishing ordinances. So that all came through this committee. So yeah, that's it on the year in review.
That was fun. And I'll also say that it isn't lost on me with the realignment working group that involves more community engagement, which does take staff time. So reflecting a shout out back at the clerk's office for that work.
Councilwoman Wilson?
This is tangentially related, but it made me think of this. I'm wondering if at some point we would, as a body, consider, you know, how successful having AHAC go to HCD is. I'm wondering also if we should begin having conversations about whichever committee is aligned with a commission, perhaps the liaison from council to that committee, to that advisory board should also be on the committee that it reports to. Did any of that make sense? I'll use this as an example. I'm on HCD. I'm also the liaison to AHAB. So I find that things flow really well because not only do they report to the full board, but because of my seat on the committee, I'm able to kind of push to get them heard in the first place. Everyone's quiet. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Could you give us another connection of some boards?
So like an example would be, I'm also the liaison to the Noise Advisory Board. The Noise Advisory Board has come before the Environment and Public Safety Commission, but no one on that board liaises with the Noise Advisory Board. And I was just thinking it would have been better if there had been a member from, I always want to say public safety, environment and safety already liaising with the Noise Advisory Board, because it took a little bit of time to go through staff to fit it on y'all's committee agenda.
It makes sense to me because when we're talking about the realignment, and I appreciate that we're now going through a public process with this, but that streamlining so that there's a back and forth, not just one way of communication. That seems to be where the communication clogs are happening, is because the communication isn't moving in both directions. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right that it would be easier if it were sort of like there's models like the circle forward model where you have same people at each table going up that help make sure the clog of communication isn't happening in the first place. That also helps if the folks who commit to be at the table can be at all the tables. And that's a lot to ask. So I get that sometimes we're covering for each other, and that's why I send a liaison report when there's there's actions like recommendations are made from the Urban Forestry Commission. If there's a formal vote on something, I send it to everybody because we are covering for each other in a lot of ways that maybe not everyone's able to be at all the meetings. So it's probably like a both and.
Because like what I try to do here is, okay, I know if this is a committee that Kim liaises, when the recommendations come, I lean into your thoughts on who should be appointed because you're there all the time. I just tend to lean that way. And I feel that it could also be helpful in our other committees if we did the same thing. That's the short part.
So just to clarify and help me if I got this wrong, when these advisory boards report to the council committee to give their update, asking that the council liaison to that advisory board be present in the meeting?
I was hearing it a little bit differently. When right after an election, every 2 years, the mayor opens up a process to kind of see which council members are available and willing to be the liaison. So, for example, I was available and willing to be the ABC board liaison. So, if the ABC board was, that maybe that's the wrong example, Urban Forestry Commission and sustainability, for example, if those are flowing to PED, then that means that the council liaison, a council liaison from PED should be the advisory board liaison to each one. The problem is in a situation like this, there are three of us here, but we don't necessarily have advisory boards. So that means that the other advisory boards may have a lot of, or the other committees may have a lot of advisory boards underneath them. So that's where I'm saying we also cover bases for each other where maybe someone's not able to go. So ultimately, I do think it would be a better flow if you have Greenway Committee reports to multimodal, reports to the Planning and Economic Development Committee. You would have Planning and Economic Development Committee member of council liaison the Multimodal Transportation Commission. If that has not been the case and somebody else has to do it, we need another way to communicate. But ideally, it would be the same person throughout, so you have an effective carrier of the information. Am I hearing that right, Antoinette?
That's exactly right. Just in the example that I gave, and it wasn't problematic, but it just required more steps. So I hear from the board, then I reach out to the chair, I reach out to someone in the city manager's office. I'm trying to explain where they want to go. You know, it's just extra steps. But if I were already on the board or on the committee, I would already have an understanding and I could just bring that up. And I feel like it would allow them to get before the attached body more quickly because we know it's already coming up. Ben, I feel like Ben was
I'd like to say something. Yes.
A great suggestion and would be wildly efficient with your time because you're very busy as council member. So what I was going to say, clerk's office is why don't we let us go back and maybe put together kind of a matrix so we can look at this and maybe see the distribution of your boards and appointments and just see what it looks like and see how much we have aligned correctly, and then try to identify the areas we don't have alignment and kind of see what it would take to maybe improve that. I think it's a great suggestion, and I think we can bring something back.
And then maybe it could just be a recommendation of this board that we follow in that direction.
Jerry?
Just noting that there will be an election coming up.
There is
So I
every
don't-
2 years.
Right.
I would say that
That's when we do those changes. We do it every 2 years.
Right. So I was bringing that up so as not to prepare the matrix and everything, but not to make necessarily the changes right now until.
Let's take a look at it and see kind of what the landscape is today. I think would be helpful.
And we did look at this, you don't have to start from scratch because we did look at this before the realignment work group when we were looking at potentially just reconfiguring boards and commissions. And then outcome of that was we had the different council committees and which advisory boards flow underneath them. So what I attempted to bring up at that moment is like, it shouldn't just flow down. It should also be able to flow up and go both ways. And what I'm hearing is the most effective way to do that is make sure that the council that goes to the committee, the council members going to the committee are also the liaison. So that will be an effective map. But once again, I was willing to serve on the MSD board, but it conflicted with the MPO. And the MPO technically is maybe closest connected to PED, but it's a whole nother body of work. So there's going to be a resource mapping that's both internal and then parts of it that are a combination of internal and external work. And it's also about availability. So I would say I would just really strongly suggest that in addition to streamlining as much as possible, that we consider another tool. That's why I provide a liaison report.
Okay. It's a great conversation.
Yes, very helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
A couple more just informal discussions, some updates from the clerk's office. Jared, do you want to touch on the annual reports?
Sure. So the annual reports are in process. We hope are in progress. We sent out the initial notice the first week of October, and we have sent follow-ups. We've received so far to date, I think 5. The deadline that we have asked is January 19th, as our rules of procedure require they be posted publicly on the website by January 31st. So we're in contact with liaisons and chairs and encouraging them to get those in. Any that come in after the 19th will be added to the public posting. However, the recommendations and everything, I'm going to start compiling on the 19th as soon as we get that. And I'll add as many as I can, but there could be some that don't make it into the compilation if they come very late. You want me to go ahead and just go on to transit passes since I'm giving that? So transit passes, as you know, we do provide transit passes for board members serving who request one. And we had 28 transit pass requests that have been issued. So little over, what about 11, 12%?
Great. Councilwoman Mosley.
On that note, I was at an AHEC meeting and a new member came up after and wanted to know if we provided parking. She was thinking about the deck across the street. Is that no longer a thing? I know when I was on a board, we got the little employee.
Yeah, that is no longer something that is provided.
Okay, thanks.
Next is realignment for Sarah.
And just an update, the committee may recall that the realignment working group made a presentation to this committee, I believe it was in November. A similar presentation will be made to full council, and that is scheduled for the next council meeting, January 23rd. So that will be under reports on the council meeting. And then as the last update, if there's no objections, that would be to cancel the February 13th meeting and to hold the next meeting on March 12th, I believe it is. All right, we'll move forward with that. And just moving ahead, I see that we have no callers in the queue.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or anything before we adjourn? Move on to council. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.